Hey mini enthusiasts, how you doing? It's part 11 of the project kit build, and just before we start I thought I'd mention myself and Mark will be at the Mini Fair 2019 organised by the British Mini Club at Bingley Hall in Staffordshire County Showground on the 27th of January, so look out for us. Mark is the tall bald guy and I'm the tall almost bald guy. So yeah, looking forward to that, picking up some bits for my car, probably picking up some bits for KITT as well. So anyway, back to the video, and yeah, we're just continuing on from last weekend at the moment. So for me, I'm recording this narration, it's Saturday evening and I'll be back down on KITT tomorrow. So at the moment I'm just fitting the near side A panel, so we've replaced the A panels on both sides of the car, and just for Piper Doug actually, I've dug out a bit of close-up footage. Piper was asking, or sorry, Doug was asking if we could do a bit more close-up, so I'll give it a try. I'm trying to get the format of these videos dialed in, trying to make it as interesting as possible. So as you can see here, the tool I'm holding there is a what's it called? It is a door skinning tool, or a door skinner. It comes from Frost's. The company's called Frost, and they do classic car sort of restoration tools, equipment, consumables, paints, stuff for welding. www.frosts or frost www.frost.co.uk. They do some really good specialist stuff, but for folding over door skins, a panel, the folded edge like that, when you're doing the boot skin, it's an invaluable tool. It really does the job very, very nicely. Makes light work of it, and it doesn't damage the sort of outside edge of that A panel or maybe the door skin or whatever you're using. So you have to get it started by just folding it over. You know, it's at 90 degrees when they press a panel. So you have to fold it a little bit just to get it started. And then it's just a case of going up and down the panel and just pulling it in lightly, bit by bit. Comes with two sizes. So I think one of the nylon parts is 2 inches and the other part is 1 inch. So you can change it over for getting into the harder to reach areas, but ideally you start on sort of the 2 inch part and then move downwards. Mark's just drilling the hole at the bottom there for the spot weld, so it's spot welded at the bottom, at the top, and a couple of little ones on the back, so there's not a great deal holding that A panel on actually. As I say, it's spot welded in a few places and then folded over on the seam. So just making sure it all lines up there and just kind of doing a final run with that folding tool now, and I'll show you a close-up of what it looks like once it's been folded. And I think, as you can see, it's a very nice neat edge there. You certainly wouldn't do that with a pair of mold grips, I don't think, or you'd make a bit of a mess of the outside of it, but that does it very nicely and neatly. So with that side done now, I'm just putting a couple of sort of tack welds on the back of the panel as well, on the back of that A panel. I think I welded it in sort of 3 places, top, middle and bottom. But like I say, those A panels, they're spot welded to the wings, and then just a couple of welds, top, bottom and in the middle. But there isn't a great deal holding them on, to be honest. They're not structural or anything like that, and they're not load bearing, so they don't have to be, you know, welded on all the way around. Now, obviously, I've just fitted that A panel on the near side there, just before sort of finally tacking it into place. We're just refitting the door again, just making sure all the gaps are right. making sure the door opens and closes on the hinges just before we finally weld up. Now I must apologise here, I just reviewed the footage, and obviously I filmed this in 1080p at 30 frames a second, and we just leave it going. It's got 128 gigabyte card in it. It gets about 5 hours on each card, and then I bring that footage back, and it takes a long time. I review all the footage, I speed it up, I cut the bits out that are not interesting. But obviously we're doing many battery changes throughout the day, so taking the GoPro down maybe as a way of actually wiring it up so it's powered all the time. I have to give that a bit of thought. But it looks like there, unfortunately, I think I've probably changed one of the settings. It's a little bit more blurry than usual, so I do apologise. It's only for about 4 or 5 minutes, I think, and then it'll revert back to normal. I think maybe I must have hit the button to change it to a lower resolution or something, but it certainly doesn't look as good. So apologies about that. As you can see, front panel's on now. That's just held in place on the front subframe mounts at the moment, the teardrop mounts. And we're just getting that ready now just to get the wings welded back on, or welded on, and that'll be the final fit of the wings. So we're getting very close now actually. I think by tomorrow, so I'm down there again tomorrow, by the end of tomorrow, I think we'll be pretty much ready for the shell to be painted. So yeah, great progress. Like I say, I apologise to some people, you know, Doug mentioned it, about doing more close-ups. I just forget to do them, you know, you just get so in the moment we're working on the car. I even forget the camera's there at times. So we're kind of the opposite from Bad Obsession Motorsport, Project Binky, where you get an update every sort of 3 months. I think I'm bashing out about 2 updates a week at the moment, and fast progress on the car. But yeah, try and do better, see if we can get a few more close-ups, give you a bit more of an idea what's going on. It's come a long way anyway. When we done Project Bolt, I think it was just photos, so yeah, we'll get there. So at the moment, we've had this front end on. This is probably the 3rd or 4th time we are measuring up now. So yeah, really important to make sure you get it right, because once it's welded on, there's not a great deal you can do. So as I've said many a times before, these are heritage panels. They do fit very well, but you still need to do a bit of fettling. You still need to do a bit of cutting and grinding, getting the shapes right. Just maybe not as much as you would have to do with some cheaper, inferior panels. But at the end of the day, it's a Mini. Some of those presses that Heritage use are very, very old. I don't know whether they'll date back to the sort of 1960s, but they'll certainly be very old, worn presses. I remember reading somewhere years ago that the last sort of Minis that come off the production line, the early 2000 Minis, late 90s Minis, was something like 2 or 3 centimeters longer, and that was purely just with wearing the pressings and things like that. So just dollying that front edge of the A panel there, so you get some, where it's been pressed actually, you get some sort of crease marks in the panel which can upset the gaps with the front wings, so you just have to go along and dolly them out. You still get it in heritage panels. All I would say is on some of the Magnum panels I've seen, the creasing is much more severe, and there's a bit more work to be done there. But all this sort of hard work fiddling about here will really pay by the time you come to putting paint on the car. You know, it's the point of no return then. When you paint it and something doesn't look right, you've got a real job to go back and sort it out then. But if you get it all right at this stage, then hopefully, fingers crossed, when it does come to painting it, it will look spot on. So I was just shaping the inner wing there, just to get it right with the front wing. You know, the wings, the front end was the first bit we removed actually, so it's had the inner wings there just sort of loose for a while now, so no doubt they've been knocked about and bent, so just making sure they're all back on okay. So just while we're fiddling around on the front end there, I thought I'd just mention a bit of background about Project KITT. So I've had a few people ask me what Project KITT is all about and they don't get it, and maybe I'm showing my age here, but it's called Project KITT because it's based on the or will be based and themed on the 1980s American TV series, which was Knight Rider, and the car in that was called KITT, Knight Industries 2000, I think that stood for. Knight Rider was all about the car, and what I find quite amazing nowadays, it was a Pontiac Firebird Trans Am, and the amazing thing about this car was that it could drive itself, it had artificial intelligence, so it could talk to you, and it had loads and loads of gadgets on it. It had a turbo boost button, it had TV screens in it, it could do anything, it could park itself, and what I find amazing nowadays, just, I'm showing my age here, but we really live in the future, because go and buy a Model S Tesla nowadays for 60, 70,000 pounds. It does everything that KITT was able to do. So I do apologise guys if I'm showing my age, and yeah, I guess to some of the younger viewers, they may not remember Knight Rider, but if you fancy a bit of cheesy American TV programs, sometimes go and search it up. I used to love it back in the sort of mid 80s, 90s. So again, sorry, back to the video. We've just got the bonnet on again there, and right from the start, like I said, we painted those bonnet hinges. So each time we've had the front end on and off, we've put the bonnet back on the hinges in exactly the same place, so we can then compare any changes we made from how it was originally. So the bonnet and the bonnet hinges are kind of the only original parts on the car, so that actually the bonnet's not original, but it was originally lined up with the original rings and scuttle panel. So what was quite amazing there actually is we put the bonnet back on, lined it back up, put it back on the original markings, shut the bonnet, and the panel gap was almost too good. The lines were straight and perfect, but the gap around the bonnet was probably only about 3mm each side, which, although it's not a problem, it's just unusual on a Mini because they never usually fit that well. So we were just debating whether we should try and move the wings out a little bit just to try and increase the gap. The thing is, what you don't want is an absolutely perfect, you know, you wouldn't want a 1mm gap on the bonnet and then have 3mm gaps on the rest of the car, because it would just look odd then. So it's just trying to get all the gaps in the panel alignment the best we can throughout the car. And like I've said right from the start, me and Mark are no experts actually. So this is Mark's second car he's built, and it's my second car actually. I've done lots of work on cars over the years, but I've never built one from a bare shell, or certainly not up till Project Bolt anyway. So I've just put a few tacks on there to spot weld those wings into place, and again we're just checking final fit there. I usually just put a few spot welds on there just to get everything in place, and then just check the gaps, because in worst case scenario it's pretty easy to drill out a few spot welds, but once you've put 20 or 30 on, you've pretty much had it. Mark actually bought a tool for measuring panel gaps. I think again that come from Frost, but it's quite useful to use. So we're happy with the bonnet now. Now it's just a case of going around doing those spot welds. I was talking to guys earlier actually that are doing work on them and his fellow YouTubers actually about how often, what's the gap you leave between spot welds. And I guess if you're plug welding, where you're drilling it and MIG welding through the hole, as long as you're getting good penetration, then it's probably every inch, inch and a half. Exactly the same with if you're using a spot welder, the weld should be just as good. It should be better than if you're plug welding actually, but the great thing about using a spot welder is it's very, very quick and it's easy. So, you know, there's no problem with putting on a spot weld every 3/4 of an inch. And I think I mentioned it on the previous video actually. The only thing you might find is if you put too much heat into the panel, which you can do, you might end up distorting it. So, but certainly you around kind of the more sort of structural areas, and you'll see on where the original spot welds actually, that they tend to increase the number of spot welds. So I'm just plug welding the back of that seam strip there, just because where Mark had drilled out the spot welds on that side. Sometimes even though you're using a spot weld drill, you end up going through both panels. So when you do that, when you fit the new panel, yeah, you just got a nice hole there to plug weld through if you can't spot weld. Just welding up the corners of the wings there. So the wings at the back there, the wing to scuttle joint isn't actually, it's not welded from underneath, it's not welded along that side, it's spot welded onto the A panel, and then it's welded on the inside of where the bonnet sits between the wing and the A panel, sorry, the scuttle panel, and it's only a small weld as well. A lot of people assume that the joint between the scuttle and the wing is welded, but it's not. I spoke to Dave Jaguar recently, Dave Jaguar 66 if you're following, and he was asking me whether I was going to lead load the scuttle to wing joint there. Still undecided. I don't think we are, just because I've not lead loaded before, and it's quite a visual place that, and I just don't want to make a mess of it. Used Tiger Seal before, it's proven, it's very, very good, and it's kind of the modern alternative to, you know, you'd lead loaded in the past because that was all they had at the time, and it is still very good, but there are modern alternatives now. So I'll give it a bit of thought. Maybe I can practice a bit of lead loading before I try it, but just cautious that I've not done it before and I don't really want to do it on a visible panel. So it's actually lunch coming in there. So we'll be stopping for lunch shortly. And I'm just underneath now, and I'm spot welding that front panel to the wing, which, as you can see, pretty difficult place to get access to, but you can just about do it. Fitted some sort of angled prongs on the spot welder. The biggest problem is the spot welder is big and heavy, and I ended up with a load of burn marks up my arm because those electrodes get pretty hot. So when you're manhandling it around, it's not the easiest thing to use like that. But again, it's very neat, quick, and easy to use. It's just flipping heavy. So it looks like we've got the camera sorted out now anyway. We're just finishing up that front end now, so we're pretty much done on that front end. That's pretty much it all welded in place. There's a few tabs on the inside, so there's some tabs which go to the inner wings, and then there's a kind of a right hand bracket that goes from the front panel to the inner wings. So I think we're coming to the end of this part of the video now. I kind of limit them to about 20 minutes so you don't get too bored. So in the next update, I'll just we'll finish off that front panel. It will probably be about a minute's worth of video, and then we roll the car back onto the jig. You can see there we've just taken the front subframe back out. That's the last we'll need of the subframe for sort of fitting the car up, so that'll go off to be powder coated now. So as we approach the end, thanks for watching, guys. Leave a comment down below if you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to updating you on the next video. So have a great day, have a great week, and speak to you soon. Cheers.